collective agreement implementation here, which is a major challenge in Nigeria. He said if workers cannot feed their family, they will not be motivated to work. He said if you want to have peace and development, there is need for special economic distribution. He advised participants to take into consideration how to ensure that the wealth of Nigeria is equally distributed. He expressed the Frederick Ebert-Stephen Nigeria's commitment to support improvement in the welfare of the people of Nigeria. Finally, the chairman of the ICPC also gave his own goodwill message, and he congratulated the Michael Imodu National Institute for Labour Study for organizing the National Policy Forum. Then the keynote address by the President of Nigeria National Industrial Courts was very detailed, comprehensive, elaborate, and full of salient points and pronouncements to guide the deliberations. So the President made reference to some sections of the constitutions that guarantee employees' right to work and right to living wage. He also brought into the front burner some pensions, which he considered to include the parity and workers' tendency to compare their pay across sectors and industry. And he said there are issues, and he tend to subscribe to the fact that discrimination may be inevitable. And that was a bit not acceptable to some other discussants who feel that discrimination should not be encouraged in the workplace. And after that, he addressed the issue of no work, no pay. For him, he said that's in line with international labor practices, and he also made it clear that employers can reach agreement with strikers to pay even during strike. So he said if such agreement has been reached, it becomes legal, binding, and justiciable. So he also offered other suggestions on how to improve workplace justice in the era of globalization. Then, in his own keynote address, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who was represented by an able representative, declared the National Policy Forum open, and he noted that the issue of compensation is recurrent globally, and its management is a critical function of employers and human resource managers. He noted that compensation is related to employees' performance and retention, as well as organizational effectiveness and national development. He noted that the federal government has invested a lot of resources to meet the need of the workforce in the public service, showing that the government ensured that no worker was retrenched in the public service in Nigeria. He agreed that the National Policy Forum is timely, given that the Nigerian government renewed the national minimum wage in 2019 through the recommendation of a tripartite committee, while the government is currently looking at harmonization of salaries of employees, the public service through the Presidential Committee on Salaries and Wages. He expressed the need to promote industrial harmony. He noted that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will implement the policy document if it is analyzed and presented in a timely manner. So, after the opening ceremony, vote of thanks was given by the Commissioner Compensation at the National Salary Income and Wages Commission, and dignitaries and some other participants assembled and took a group photograph. And the opening ceremony was brought to a close at 12:55 p.m. After that were technical sessions, 4 technical sessions that generated robust discussions and various questions and answers session. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, going to the details will mean wasting our valuable time. This document is available and I believe will be shared. On this note, I thank you for your support and attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Akinwale. He's standing back because he's a teacher. He expects that I should ask him questions immediately. That's what we call occupational hazard. So please wait, you still have time to speak later. All right, so we get into the first the first item, Barrister Umadi, you had a question or something? So this is not an engagement. I'm not a jurist, so I don't know that. You can go ahead, please ask.
Thank you. Since you granted me the indulgence, maybe I could see it. It was on account of the young man you asked to speak to us. For me, it was an admonition to this gathering on two fronts, or for two reasons. The one is protection, the other is regulation. With respect to regulation, I think what he was actually pushing for is that here is a nation or a government that is largely absent, in the sense that you have all manner of malfeasance, including the fact that only recently we are told that as a nation we are unable to protect our pipelines, and it took just one person and his company to do that, which is supposed to be unraveled by an entire Nigerian military, particularly the Navy, and so on and so forth. So I think the point he was trying to push is that, look, this is a job creating enterprise, and that if the government never saw it and some business minded people came into this country and evidently created this job and recruiting the mass unemployed youth, then the least that the government can do is to regulate, in a way, that aspect. And then when it is regulated, they can even benefit from taxation. But more importantly, they will be able to have a way of protecting the workers in that environment. And for me, that dovetails into the question of their, their rights. People under the Constitution, they are, they are, they are entitled to freely associate, they are entitled to work along the line of all the labor regulations and parameters we have discussed. But more importantly, I think he makes the point that if nothing is done, the tendency is that they will not only be crowded out, the oppressive, the oppressive tendencies that they have seen will persist and even escalate to the point where that mass recruiting environment will simply disappear. And I need to commend it. But freedom is never given free. And that's the irony of it. I think Prof had admonished. One, you could explore the possibility of doing that which those people have done. But more importantly, go ahead, press for this unionization that you're looking for. Get registered. That is when the government will want to deal with you. And that is when you will have the legal barriers to be able to contest whatever it is you are complaining about. And I think at the end of the day, we're better off. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister Malaki Ugoman. I still know you are conscious of your position, or former position as President Civil Liberties Organization of Nigeria. All right, so we get to the listed activity, first listed activity for today, and that's our panel of discussion. And today we are reflecting, if you turn your manuals to page 22, the panel is on wage and incentive regimes. It's also on pay, competitiveness, and productivity issues in the public and private sectors, and wage sector or industry-specific dynamics and the Nigerian economy. So that's the sub-theme or the track that we are dealing with this morning. And so I have some panelists to help us, map around this issue, and I'll just call all of them. Before I get to that, I'd like to inform you that The chairperson and convener of this session is Professor Musa Usman Abubakar, his secretary to the commission that independent corrupt practices and other related commissions. So can we invite Professor Abubakar Usman? I think if you're not corrupt, you should give me a sound round of applause. I'm sure, sir, we're all compliant and no one is corrupt here. You can imagine. All right. So I want to also welcome the moderator of the session. The moderator of the session is Dr. Mrs. Christiana Famro. She's a former director of training in Michael Imodu National Institute for Labor Studies. She's also a former chief Servicom officer, so she moderates the session. And as you come over here, I want to remind you that your former Director General, Dr. John Olariwaju, is also here. So for the panelists, please, I want to invite Barrister Mrs. Omoebi Udeme Akman. She's representing the head of service, the head of the civil service of the Federation. Join me welcome Mr. Shegun Ajayi Kadri. He is the Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. I also want to welcome Mr. Ayodeji Olasobikon. He's President, Kwara State Chamber of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Industries. He's representing their national president. I want to welcome Comrade O.C. Obonna. He is National President of the Nigerian Union of Allied and Health Professionals. He's also an official of the National Executive of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. He represents the National President. Join me welcome Dr. Gbenga Bamiduro. He's Director of Planning at the National Productivity Center. He's representing their Director General. All right, so this is our lineup. So it's a panel. Essentially, they will do the moderator of the panel will take charge from here. I suppose that the convener maybe has an opening statement. Okay, and then the moderator will take up from there and guide the session. Thank you. So, Professor Musa Usman Abubakar.
Chairman, National Salary Income and Wages Commission, distinguished dignitaries, participants, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I feel greatly honored to be invited to share this meeting, which is a discussion on wage and incentive regimes / pay, competitiveness and productivity issues in public and private sector, specific dynamics and the Nigerian economy. You can see from the panelists, we have people from the public and private sector who will engage us in robust discussion on this subject matter. So I hope, just as we had it yesterday, the discussion will come up with very important policy issues that will help in changing, the dynamics of our system. Thank you very much.
and gentlemen, you are welcome once again to this discussion, this panel discussion, and I hope that we'll be able to get concrete issues nailed down and move forward again from yesterday, and not be like the guy said, just talk. I hope that we'll be able to nail the issues down. I want to welcome discussants, and I think the order of discussion, Edwin? Okay, so I will, yeah, exactly. So I will just invite us to the panelists to just begin as we sit, to just jump in and make our presentation. Thank you very much.
Opening statements, you want
Yeah.
maybe like 2 minutes or 3?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam. As I've been introduced, ladies and gentlemen, I'm from the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting us. And it's to say that since yesterday we've heard about labor-related issues, wages, and so on and so forth. So what I've done is to try to put my thoughts together in this paper, which I will hand over to the organizers, because I assume that with the status of the institute, they will have the capacity to upscale all that has been discussed here to the right corridors of power. So I will not dwell too much on what has been said. I will just give you the private sector perspective or the manufacturer's perspective, because the issues that concern me really are competitiveness and productivity. And so what I've done here is to briefly introduce the concepts and to give an idea of what drives manufacturing competitiveness, which includes the prevalence of talent-driven innovations, and I think that resonates with labor, presence of supportive and business-enabling infrastructure, business-centric legal and regulatory environment, private sector-driven policy orientation, and a friendlier economic, trade, and financial and tax systems. I mean, these are issues that for the manufacturer drives competitiveness. When you operate in an economy that has all of this, you are likely to be competitive compared to another one. It is a different thing if you want to ask whether Nigeria is very competitive. I think from all that has been said yesterday, you will see that we operate in an environment that does not promote competitiveness because of myriad of challenges, leading microeconomic challenges, infrastructure challenges, policy issues. But nevertheless, Nigeria remains a lucrative market in Africa, because we have a population of 200 million people and we are growing by 2.6% annually. I mean, so this gives the impression that if we had a vibrant manufacturing sector, for instance, our growth is likely to be internally generated because we have a huge market. And we wouldn't yield it to countries like China, to economies like those in China, Europe, and so on and so forth. Now, let me go somewhere nearer home, that how do you rate the country's public and private sector in the areas of employee compensation? I think there is no doubt that the private sector compensates the worker more. And I think that's because they are productivity driven. And the reason is you don't engage anybody if you don't need the fellow. I mean, and if he's not productive, you show him the way out. I don't think all of this corresponds very well with the public sector. And at the same time, you have a more robust engagement between the employer and the employee. Everybody knows that you need to produce and sell and make profit for you to be able to pay your workers. Otherwise, you'll be having issues like downsizing, right sizing, and the rest of it. But generally speaking, paying somebody 30,000 naira per month and expecting him to work, you are a non-starter. And you cannot afford in the private sector to, if you are a serious business person, to pay your worker peanuts, and the competition will drive you out of the market before you know it. So I think it's an issue of enlightened self-interest, not that they are philanthropists. And so there are quite a number of issues that has limited our competitiveness in Nigeria, and sometimes it's actually wrong perception about made in Nigeria goods. If I look at many of us here, most of our suits are not made in Nigeria, whereas we have very good tailors that make shoes. Everything I'm wearing on me, apart from my wristwatch, is made in Nigeria. And I think why many of us do not want to patronize made in Nigeria is because we have this wrong perception that they are inferior. But I like to tell you that even those suits are referred to, many of them are made here, but they cleverly put labels that will allow rich people like you to buy. So, of course, we also have a situation where in Nigeria, most of our recent challenges now they are not giving priority to the allocation of forex to the manufacturing sector. So even the worker in Nigeria is not productive enough when you compare him with his counterparts outside of the country. What I'm saying is when you take a worker in Nigeria and compare him to what his counterparts in Europe and even in more responsibly managed economy in Africa, you will see that the productivity is so. When you do not have a capacity to import your raw materials, let me quickly give before I use the floor the fact that we are not asking that forex that is not available be given to us. But when the manufacturer exports in Nigeria and he repatriates his profits, the CBN collects the thing from him and the dollar he has repatriated from him and gives naira to him at the official rate. If you sell to the army window, is compensated by about 65 naira. But that brings him up to a total of less than 500. Whereas if you give him his dollar and he sells it, he can make more. But that's not even the bad thing. The very bad thing is that when he now wants to import the raw material to produce another batch, he goes to these banks they don't have, then he goes to the black markets to buy at 700, 680, 850, and whatever. So this reduces productivity both for the manufacturer and his profitability, and it makes the workers not to get real value, because as you assume that when the manufacturer is more productive and is able to produce and make more profit, the worker will be better remunerated. We also have the issue of smuggling, unstable power supply. Just in the year 2022, in the year 2021, we actually had to spend 77.22 billion naira on alternative source of power. This would have been reduced to nothing close to this, and our productivity would have improved. Then you have high lending rates. A manufacturer that borrows at 27%, you can be certain that it's not going to make profit. We have multiple taxation. I'm sure even the individuals in Nigeria are solving this. And our ease of doing business ranking, even though it has been improving, it only improved from 146 position in 2018 to 131 in 2019, which is still very, very low. Given all this, I think we have to think of the way forward, which is to have a progressive taxation system, a situation where there is assessment even from the public sector as to what government needs to do to rightly compensate the workers. It is unfortunate that we have laws that continues to make the average Nigerian worker to be operating in servitude. But we need, as a government, to have a robust engagement with the workers that we have, so that we can pay wages that will take them home and make them to be more productive. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you for letting us into the travails of the manufacturing sector and the impact of compensation. I think we should just take the sessions and take questions together. I mean, after, yeah.
Opening remarks at this time.
Okay, yeah, okay.
All right, thank you very much. Let me quickly say that much of my interventions will be focusing on the public service, which falls under the jurisdiction of the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. From from the engagement we have had since yesterday, it's clear to me that we are all advocates on having a living wage. But the main issue that I notice that many people are not addressing is the issue of ability to pay. It will be a futile exercise if we talk about compensation and the need to improve without addressing the main issue of economy. That is, all arms of government, all tiers of government must put together, hands together, to address the issue of our economy. Because when we have the right enabling environment for the economy to thrive, it will be easy to make demands that are implementable. But with this short remarks, I think I'll close for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, the organizers of this program. I think you have done well. And I will ride on where she stopped, talking about the ability to pay. It's very germane. But if we may ask ourselves, do we not have the population? Do we not have the workforce? Are we not productive? Why should those productive elements not also be compensated correctly? According to the Bureau of Statistics report, just recently, it cited that about 95 million Nigerians are living in poverty. Living in poverty in the midst of prosperity and abundance. Where have we gotten it wrong? So, as the representative of the labor union, I will dwell much more on wages, incentives, and areas where we can block all these wastages during the course of my main engagement. But I want us to also cite the same Bureau of Public Statistics, that out of 10 Nigerians, 4 are living below the poverty line. 4 out of 10. Why should it be so? Where are we getting it wrong during the course of this interaction? Probably from our own angle, we shall also elicit some of the reasons. Then finally, I want to say here that 3 years ago, the labor unions proposed something that looked like a living wage to the government, that 56,000 naira per month, which at then was not very sufficient, could be managed per a worker. But the government, maybe because of the ability to pay, she has just said now, put it down at 30,000 naira per person. And from statistics, the cost of living, the price inflationary rates, March 2021 to March 2022 is about 15%. Who bears the brunt? You still come back to see that an average civil servant bears the brunt because his salaries are fixed. But there's a law in Nigeria that every 4 years, automatically, the wages of workers should be reviewed without any hula baloo. But are we doing that? Until the labor unions start to raise their voices again and start to demand declaring strikes and all that, you will not see the nation, the leaders, the government being proactive or responsive. How long should we continue in this? I want to stop here. We shall engage further. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I represent the Chambers of Commerce And just like we have had since yesterday, first let me bring you the warm compliments of the President of National Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, Ide John Biagala. He's very happy and satisfied that this forum is taking place now because of all the issues that we in the private sectors have been going through. But let me stand or stay by the already established issues or points raised by my very good DG, and able DG of MAN. He has told us some of the issues that have been confronting us. And because he has spoken on behalf of the manufacturing industry, let me say that I will go down to the small and medium enterprises who are also part of the private sector. One of the main issues that we have in that sector, that the small and medium enterprise, is what this gentleman analyzed this morning, the Yoruba gentleman analyzed this morning. We have issues where entrepreneurs who are trying to survive engage employees, and by the end of the month, they themselves don't even earn this minimum wage that we are talking about, because they see themselves struggling to pay the salaries of these employees. And once they pay the salaries of employees, tax authorities will come to them, take what they want to take. Local government agencies, in terms of multiple levies, will also come. And lately, for some of them, because in those days, we do not know the difference between enterprise and limited. They registered as limited companies. Then, by the end of the year, they expected to pay their company income tax. Somebody who has been managing to survive, and the tax authority will say, okay, if you are not making profit, fine. But there is what we call minimum tax. Minimum tax is whether you make profit or not, you must pay. If you still struggle to find money to pay, that is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on them at that level. And then the second thing is, if maybe you have not noticed of late, that gradually skill at the lower level has been diminishing. Okada business has taken a lot of our youths away from jobs like carpentry, electrical works, and all that. And in companies, they need this lower level of skilled staff to do some fixing of one or two things. Waiting for them takes time to get somebody to do that, and that affects productivity at that level. You may try it. This morning, the chairman mentioned that we do not have these skilled people at international level. Yes, that is true. But the problem we are facing is that even at local level, they are no longer available. They have chosen to go into Okada business, which to them brings more money. And by the time we get to a level where we are not getting those skilled labor again, even at the private sector level, it will be another issue for us. And then we are monitoring to see that what we are doing is something that we will say at the end of the day, the private sectors they are contributing their own quota to national development. Another issue that we want us to look at, this concerns those of us in the public sector. Fine, the people at the private sector will be able to achieve some level of management, compensation management, particularly between productivity and salaries or wages. And in the public sector, we're having issues. Yesterday here, the DG of NECA mentioned that one of the ways we in the private sector we are able to achieve some level of sanity is through collective bargaining. Are we not getting to a level in the public sector that we need something like that? This morning, Professor Tobo reminded us that before the military started all the marching and working, we had a lot of union bodies that can go into negotiation with even the Civil Service Commission on what can be paid. And since they are no longer there now, you see a lot of stress at that level of unionism And the focus is also being diverted. Diverted in the sense that it is when there are issues, they are only being reactive in some cases. There are so many issues that will have been taken on the table before they become major problems that they also, one way or the other, overlook. In this form, most of the departments or MDAs that we have are at the federal levels. I have not seen anyone introduce anybody from the states or even from local governments. And this is where the problem is. If you fix salary at the federal level and being on the exclusive list, you want people at the local and the state level to also comply. But believe sincerely, just to be frank and sincere to ourselves, there are a lot of staff at local government levels that their productivity and their input may not deserve such way we are looking at it. There are some states now, if you go to the local government secretariat or to their secretariat, what you see will be is appalling. Not in terms of the building, but in terms of the staff. Federal staff are very lucky because they are facing a lot of challenges and issues. And government is responding both in terms of training and in terms of making them more productive. But at that local level, something needs to be done because we need to assess it very well. Unfortunately, to me, as a private person, the causes of these problems are not even with us here to help us look for solutions. We talk of federal character. If I'm a commissioner in the Federal Character Commission and we're engaging people, I do not see how you do people and you engage without engaging from my own zone. I have to stand up to say something. So whether we need 10 or 12, it doesn't concern me. As long as my own people, whom I'm representing, like they used to tell us, are included, then where are these people going to be put? Then you don't find a place where you engage staff, there are no offices for them. So I'm sorry, politicians made the matter worse. Some even engage on the eve of leaving office and create problem for incoming administration. And incoming administration attempts to sack them, it becomes another labor issue. So I think we need to look at it critically. And like the representative of Madam said, ability to pay is also germane. We must not overlook it. At the SMEs level, how many of them, to be realistic, how many of them can even afford to pay the current minimum wage at the SMEs level? How many of them? But they struggle and they see themselves as helping the nation in reducing what? Unemployment. So ability to pay is also very, very key. And maybe for now, I will stop here so that we can look at other issues when questions are asked. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good morning, the organizers, distinguished participants, and the panelists. I'm representing the Director General of the National Productivity Center, and our focus is on pay, competitiveness, and productivity issues in the public and private sectors. We have a small write-up here that I'm going to submit to the organizers at the end of the day. I'll just give a brief synopsis of what is in the paper. We first of all tried to define what productivity is all about. We have different perspectives of defining productivity. I will just take one, which is the simplest one. It talks about relationship between output and input. Output in terms of the goods and services that are produced, and the inputs in terms of the resources that are used to produce these goods and services. When we talk of output, we are talking about maybe cars, we are talking about students, tangible and intangible items. When you are talking about inputs, we are talking about the factors of production in terms of land, labor, capital, and so on. But the focus here is on labor, that is the worker. And what is the compensation for the worker? The compensation is what? Is salaries and wages. And when you are talking about wages is mostly, I will just narrow it down to payment on hourly basis, whereas salaries is paid at regular intervals, maybe monthly, weekly, and so on and so forth. Then another key concept is competitiveness, the ability of Nigeria, the country, to produce goods that meets international standards. As of today, can we beat our chest and say that our goods can compete favorably in the international market? That is a question for this gathering. Then the next item now is when you have workers, apart from rewards, apart from compensation, we have what is called financial and non-financial rewards. Financial rewards, I've mentioned it. The non-financial rewards, we are talking about maybe a pat on the back. Maybe sometimes you give somebody the best worker of the week or of the year, and so on and so forth. Then at National Productivity Center, we have what is called the observance of National Productivity Day, in which we will recognize workers and organizations that have performed very well in a given year. And then, for this particular gathering, the most important thing I expect us to look at is trying to tie payment of wages or increment of wages to productivity. And this, we are talking about what? What is called productivity linked wage system. And this has, there are about 3 models. We have what is called the profitability model, productivity model, and then the combined model. The profitability model is talking about agencies or the private sectors who are making profits. Then that of productivity, we are talking about those who are into services. And then combined, that is those who are both making profit and at the same time providing services. For instance, in Nigeria, we have custom service, we have federal inland revenue service, and so on. You base it on what? On their targets. This is what I expect us to discuss at this August gathering. And lastly, most importantly, we also have a concept that is called Labor Management Corporation. Before, we used to have, and it is still existed anyway, collective bargaining, in which you go to the table to discuss a discussion between the master and the servant. Who is the master? The master is the employer. And who is the servant? The servant is the worker. Or sometimes you call them cat and mouse. The employer is the cat, and the worker or labor is the mouse. But under Labor Management Corporation, they are all partners. They come together to discuss on how to improve the level of productivity of the organization so that they can move forward, and then at the end of the day, they share the gains of productivity at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our distinguished panelists. We will turn it over, but there are issues that we wish that we will look at. For instance, talking about travis of manufacturers, especially we understand your predicament with regards to infrastructure. One would expect that you do not push this to the workers. One would expect you to sort out your back-end issues with government, with the, what are you taking on the electricity body, how are you engaging them on behalf of workers? Because at the end of the day, this affects a wage. So what we will expect you to sort out that is your own stakeholder management, so that you can so that you do not throw this to the workers and then all of us use our hands. You have more leverage and more gravitas to engage the providers of this, so that you do not just have a field day and go scot-free. would not provide it, because the electricity is key on everything. This is the reason why they will go and ride Okada, who does not need electricity, rather than do welding or any other thing that they can do that makes people prosper. So we need to know what a man is doing about that. And
So,
for the
you want to answer that question?
yeah, I just want to know so that people can. And for the, I'm happy that the head of service is here represented. And it's good to talk about ability to pay and stuff like that. But all these things we're actually talking about compensation, and I mentioned it yesterday. It has to do with job evaluation, and all these things that are talking about people getting the distortions in the compensation system, the people getting what they don't deserve, and how everybody has opted out of the unified salary grading system. When the salary surrender? Okay, but I see you, so I see your guy. Why the salaries and incomes and wages commission, very powerful grade A commission, is just looking there. It is because there is no job evaluation. All these things we are saying, we won't get it right until jobs are evaluated. And job cannot be evaluated until the career management system is overhauled. And the career management system will not be overhauled until the skills of service is reviewed, is revised. We are using skills of service that is ancient. And we have headed public service reform in federal, and I'm sure. And we have worked with, we have set in motion, we have that these skills of service, that was just papered over our open. It was the same thing that have been used since independence. Our cadre system is so ancient, it is so antiquity, archaic. So that when you meet, when Nigeria goes to make reports abroad, I've been there in some sessions, and people are reporting about their career management systems. We are just not there. They cannot understand what we say. So sometimes representatives don't say anything because they are talking about career system. They are talking about job, families, and so on. We are not talking about cadres and all these ancient terminologies. So we need to revise the scheme of service so that they can do, so that NSIWC can do job evaluation, so that there can be comparability in payments and compensable wages.
All right.
Thank you.
I think they're clapping for the moderator. Is she? This is a political season. She's sounding partisan, maybe. All right. I'm just joking. You are speaking from the position of a professional.
These are my own issues that we need to just throw this out. And we need to engage so that the head of service seated here with us can enable the salaries, incomes, and wages commission seated here with us to do job evaluation. Big issue.
So the first, so these are two questions for the panelists before we go to the. Maybe we can just do this very quick before the audience give you questions, raise questions with you. What do you think? Is that okay? So essentially, why is man not engaging at the back end but passing essentially everything to the consumer? Just two questions for public service.
Okay.
And
thank you, moderator. I wish I was not a victim of what you are asking. Manufacturers are actually victims because we don't generate power, and then we are forced to pay the rates. And I think I joined MAN about 26 years ago, and I've worked in virtually all aspects of the organization. When I joined in 1994, one of the issues, the first issue I advocated for, and that was in Kaduna Industrial Area, was power. We still continue after 26 years to advocate for it. As a matter of fact, MAN has established what we call a Manpower Development Company that partners with private sector people to supply power to our members in clusters. This has been frustrated by the established discos. We also have we struggled for, and then we got the eligible customer scheme, which should have allowed us to take power directly from TCM, which will reduce the cost. The same thing is being frustrated by the discos because you are required to have a no objection from them. Again, we got a tax a rate regime that was outside the MITO. We are in court with NEC and discos taken together today. That case has been in court for a very, very long time, and we've not been able to make it. So as an advocacy group, we have been concerned with power. Unfortunately for us, the regulations makes it very difficult for you to, when you even generate power on your own, you are made to take it to the grid. You cannot easily sell it around you. So we are completely incapacitated, and I want to tell Madam that I'm a victim of what you are asking. And advocacy in Nigeria has become such a very, very frustrating engagement. Sometimes when you are relating with government, it's like a monologue, you know, and it's so difficult that if you are making some headway in your engagement with government, the next time you are going to show up, you see an entirely different set of people. Then you now have to put them up to, and before you know it, there's a change of government. And somebody will tell you, it's not me that, where he inherited the cars, he inherited all the perquisites of God, but he didn't inherit the problem. So I think there is a challenge about advocacy. And just because I have the opportunity, when we say ability to pay, is it a natural thing? I think you should get money to pay people. So if government say it doesn't have the ability to pay, how about other countries where people are even paid social securities and the rest? I think the government should just manage these resources. If you come and say I don't have capacity, who has capacity to pay? If I get a megad in my house, for instance, if I need security, I pay 100. If I want to just anyhow, I pay 20,000 or something like that. So I think government has to sit right. Because in the National Assembly, for instance, I'm told that the senator in Nigeria earns more than the president of America. Is that capacity? Do you talk of capacity to pay when you are paying those people and paying somebody 30,000? So I think this is, we need to interrogate it and prioritize. I mean, what is it? So I don't think it's a natural thing. God did not impose capacity to pay on Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. For Madam, I will just want quickly to answer that issue of discourse and so on. Anybody from Edo State here? You are from Edo State. The head of state is the head of service of Edo State. Very good. You know that I'm currently engaged in some work with the Edo State government, and I know that Edo State uses independent power. Do you know that Edo State uses independent power production? Well, they do. Edo State, that doesn't do. I'm doing some work with the government. So, what is the issue? Edo State is running on independent power IPP. Find out. Why can't we do that? So that is my response to that. Please, man should go and explore that. And and I think we should work. We should continue on this issue of this. What you have said. We must. If there are issues, we must resolve to in this forum. Is about discussions. If we don't do discussions, it is the greatest corruption. There is discussion, which is exemplified by how people pay by RAFMAC and all the things. There is huge discussion in payments, and that will be done if they do this job evaluation. Let every job be evaluated. Let's know the compensable factors. Let us know the comparability, and we will be able to remove this discussion that is causing corruption. When somebody is not doing something and is earning a lot, it's a huge temptation for everybody else to want to take that. It doesn't belong to them. Thank you very much. Madam, head of service wants to.
Thank you, the moderator. Yes. Mic on? Yes. Okay. Let me first of all start by correcting a notion that I had repeatedly in this hall. When we talk about fixing minimum wage, it's actually different from collective bargaining negotiations. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria expects that minimum wage will be fixed once in 5 years, but that doesn't stop parties from renegotiation of their pay packages. In the private sector, that is done oftentimes. You have the first one, they say wage reopener, which is done every year. In the public sector, we say annual increments. Although that is not negotiated, it's something that is fixed and they just add whatever it is they need to add. But then, in the private sector, you have full-blown negotiations, usually every 2 years. So, the idea of believing that because government fixes minimum wage once every year translates into wage review every, no, it's wrong. So we need to first of all get that right. Now going to some of the issues that the moderator raised, let me say that the present head of the civil service of the Federation is not unaware of the issue of productivity being the bane of the public service. And that's why one of the reforms that we have under FC, now FC is a project being embarked on by the present head of the civil service of the Federation. And one of the pillars of that is what we call performance management system. And the idea behind that is that even in the public service, we should have pay-related, performance-related pay. So people will be judged based on meeting set targets. You have clear key performance indicator based on SMART. And we also, in that process, on that performance management system, we have the plan to introduce efficient incentive and consequence management system. The whole idea behind this is to ensure that people are paid based on value added into the system. Now let me say that this whole performance management is an ongoing process. It's yet to be fully established in all the NPAs, but I think they have run a test in 6. So going forward, without doubt, the head of service is conscious of the fact that we need to pay people on the basis of the value they have added to the system. And then we are, in the process of that, we are trying to put in place performance measures at the individual and unit levels, such that at the end of the day, if you meet...
Take note.
As president, take number 1, wherever you are, number 1.
Yes.
Who else? Who else after him? Number 2.
Who's number 2, man?
Number 2.
Madam, number 2.
Then number 3.
Number 3.
Number 4 here.
4. Okay. And then maybe 5. Maybe if we can have another round after that. But let's start with this one quickly. Number 1. I think everybody wants to hear the Acting President.
Well, thank you, the moderator. I permit me to speak on a number of issues. I'll start with the first one, which is the issue of ability to pay. I think it could be wrong. In 1992, when we were having an agreement with the government and the military, and this question came up. How do we implement this agreement? I would say give us 2 hours. And we came with this your TED fund. I would say without TED fund, all the state university would have gone. Because we don't challenge ourselves. When we are appointing people, we look for my brother, my sister, and incompetent people are appointed in strategic position, and they do nothing. And then sure we are where we are today. Let me ask an example. We were told, and a CBN, said, Nigerian government, we as a country spend $3.5 billion as tuition fees, school fees in other countries in the world. Convert that to Naira. It will solve all our education problems. But we are killing it. We are killing the system because our children are abroad. And we are killing the system. So we don't challenge ourselves. In other countries, you have what the country is. Relationship between government, the academics, and the industry. But we will not allow it. A government has a pen in his hand, he runs abroad. You are the doctor you are going to be very likely Nigerian. So that is it. I want something. If the country where only one man, a governor, could take 900 million as security vote without doing anything, and say you don't have the ability to pay, but you can pay one man. A governor retiring after just 4 years or 8 years in the office,
It goes on with a house in Abuja, 10 cars, billions, hundreds of billions naira, and you say you don't have ability to pay. And that man has told you someone where he was a governor. In a country where only one man sitting on our finance could be alleged to have stolen 109 billion, one man, and is free on the street, and you say you don't have the ability to pay. In a country, before independence, Nigeria had the railway line from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, from Lagos to Kano. But since 1960 today, we are not building one functional railway line, and we don't have money. We have spent trillions of naira in a Jakarta Steel Company. Trillions. People are stealing money through them. If it has worked today, we will not import one, and we will be exporting iron. We don't have ability to pay. Today, as a country, if we are doing well, if we are putting the right people in key offices, and not my brother to go and aim salaries like NSIWC, we will be supplying fuel to all the West African countries. Today, we import fuel with our crude. We don't have money. Nigeria has spent 4 to 6 trillion naira a year on subsidy. There is no ability to pay. When we can, if you challenge our academics, in 2 years they will build a refinery for you without bringing anybody outside. We don't have the ability. So these are the issues we have. An issue of public service and private. You see, when we are talking about minimum wage, we are talking about less than 30-40% for the people who are working in Nigeria, especially those in private sector. I'll give an example. I had a colleague when we were on strike 2020, went to do a sabbatical in the private school. Unknown to him, a professor was paid 160,000 per month. 160,000 per month. Is there any union in any private university? No. They pay you what you want to take. Is there any union in all the private secondary school and private primary school? In Nigeria, you still have a person with a degree. They pay 10,000 a month as a teacher in the school. What are we doing about it? So when I had this, the young man that's speaking, I pity because what we are talking about is about less than 40% in private sector. Take the banks. I had a student who died working in the Access Bank. I will mention the name. The student had worked there more than 8 years as a staff, and he had kidney failure. The bank refused to give a couple, and the idea was that it's not our staff, it's the private listing. How much of the private payment that work in the banks? And she died. So these are the things we have. So we need to go down. We are talking about those who are privileged, 30,000. More than 60% of Nigerians who are working in the private sector earn less than 20,000 a month. So that's our problem. So we're talking about those who are working. I want to say again, finally, before I will present my only time, is that it was easier to negotiate during military than the civilian. It was easier for collective bargaining during military than the civilian. Also, we have been with this government for the past 5 years, going to 6 years negotiating. I will finish one set, the bureaucrats will knock it down. We go to the next level, they say that panel will finish, they knock it down. And we are the third one now, they have knocked it down. Nobody is talking about it again. Avoid the implication. I will tell you this. You think no work, no pay, you are dealing with you are not dealing with lecturers. I can assure you, the good one will leave the country. Many of our brothers have massive trade. So, their commitment to university today is hard. You think you are dealing with which company in the world, a good company will allow your workers to go on strike for 2 weeks? If you really love those for your workers, what you are doing. But in Nigeria, because the citizens who control our resources, their children are not here. So if you like, what are business? That is our problem. So until now get those who will maintain, who believe that Nigeria is entitled to Nigerian resources, they don't believe so. That you have Nigerian, even the man in the village is entitled to Nigerian resources. That a Nigerian who is the mayor entitled to good health. A Nigerian in the village is entitled to good education. We will remain where we are. We are having foreigners as those who are running the country. Foreigners, they spend their wives abroad, they have house in Dubai, house in London, and you want to run here, you come here on holiday to collect money.
Thank you very much. As for us trying to save Nigeria, thank you, sir. Number 2. Thank you, Commissioner. Work. lot of redundancy in the public service sometimes. There's a lot of redundancy in the academics. I'm going to say it loud and clear. We are all corrupt. We are all wrong. Everything has to be broken down and put back in order. Don't bring your scientific officer cousin that has nothing to do in the hospital. When I need nurses and pharmacists, and you are bringing me your cousin or your son that went and studied something that is not needed to me, and because you are powerful and you are the vice chairman or you are the VC or whoever you are, or you are a commissioner like myself, and you put that young girl in my office and it's not adding to the hospital. Now we complain about doctors. Why do Nigerians excel outside the country? Why are we effective? If we are car drivers in New York, we are well done. If we are nurses in America, we are excel. If we are doctors in America, we excel. The moment we come back here, we see a woman in labor, we tell you, who made you pregnant? The moment you are a lecturer in Nigeria, you become a semi-god. Those that taught me in America are no semi-gods, sir. They did not sell me my papers. I paid my tuition, I collect my papers, and I take my exam. No sex. Nobody gave me anything for my pretty face. When you ask your students to come and meet you in the hotel, you are part of the perpetrators. When you are a governor and you will not give a job just because you don't like that person, you're a perpetrator. When you're a public servant, you're in your office, you're not doing the right thing, you're a perpetrator. Let's stop pointing accusing fingers. There is no compensation when there is no productivity. If you are redundant and useless to the system, you must be out of the door. I don't care who you are. NSI, there are people working every day, every night, every minute in this administration. And there are some that has no value added at all. Let us break down the system and refix it. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Number 3. Who's number 3?
Oh, thank you very much. I'm Victor Makondola, President, Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria. The ASU President addressed a part of my problem, which is the ability to pay. And I would just like to ask the representative of the head of service, I'm on your side about ability to pay right now. I'm one of the few who does not believe Nigeria is a rich country. We keep saying it. Nigeria is a potentially rich country if well managed. We have the resources, but right now we're not rich. I've compared the health budget of the UK NHS in 1 year, 153 billion pounds, to Nigeria's 1 billion pounds. There's no basis for comparison, and there's no basis even for competition when it comes to flow of health manpower. Every labor follows the money, so we're going to end up there one way or the other. But how does the Nigerian government convince Nigerian labor union leaders, Nigerian workers, that there is no ability to pay in the face of opulence of the legislators, in the face of opulence of the executive arm of the government? When we see the bill for the presidential fleet, the budget for the presidential fleet, I think that's the challenge you have to convince Nigerians currently that we do not have ability to pay, despite all these excesses that we see on the other side of the government. I know we need to do a lot more to tap the resources we have and become a rich country. Right now, we're not rich, we're only deceiving ourselves. We're really one of the poor countries as we have been classified. We're a low, middle income country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Number 4.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Awoka Musa. I'm from Securities and Exchange Commission. I want to ride on what the Commissioner of Compensation has said, because that was my thought when we spoke, before she spoke. Well, today, today we are talking of dilemmas and milestones. And I'm happy the combination is between the private and the public sector, and everybody's talking about productivity. Productivity is discipline. And my challenge goes to the labor leaders. the kind of pressure and harassment they do to government, the pay wages, I want them to take that into consideration to be champions of productivity. They harass us so much on increase of wages, remuneration, but they don't look at productivity, and these staff are under them. And they can do a lot. The commissioner has stated, no productivity, no compensation. It is very clear. Innovations come where you have skills and competencies. People improve on their competencies and skills to be relevant to where they work. Everybody wants to get to the top. And once you put that into consideration, people will rise to the challenges. We want to see the enforcement of milestones. I want the labor leaders, just as they take remuneration and wages increase, to also take the issue of productivity head on. They should be productivity champions. They should be productivity advocates. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Number 5.
Lady who asked the question there, is it? She raised her hand. Was she among the selected? Okay, 5.
Thank you. My greetings to everybody in the house, to the Chairman, National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission. My name is NSIWC. I am a nurse, the National President of National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives. And I want to share with us a few things directly to the point. There is one book that was written by Shino Achebe. Over 70% of the people here have read it. The title of the book is that the problem of Nigeria is leadership. That is number 1. Number 2 is a take-home question. Why is it difficult? Because we are talking about workers' compensation. Why is it difficult that those who have retired cannot get their retirement benefit as at when due? And when they die, their relations to access it is another problem. Why is it so difficult? Because everybody in this room will retire one day. And if A, B, C, D have suffered the pains of not getting their entitlements, you will also suffer it. If we are leaders at any various level, why do we allow that when we know it is not good? That is 2. Number 3, ability to pay. Let me say it here, and I stand to be challenged. Nigeria is naturally endowed. I am sure we don't have earthquakes as some other countries. Rather, what we have is insurgents, attacks, insecurity, and other manners of misconduct and mischievous behavior. That is rather what we have. And this is man-made. It can stop if you want it to stop. And I know this level of insecurity is unfriendly with anybody, that everybody now is afraid of walking around his or her compound, of going out at late hours. Especially when you know your status. You are afraid. Why? Is Nigeria supposed to be like that? The answer is no. And the question is, who is responsible? Now, by extension, I want to tell us, those who may not be aware, that there is brain drain, and it is particularly affecting the health sector. The nurses in particular. And I'm afraid that if nothing is done, the health sector will collapse under our hands. Those at the helm of affairs. A lot of nurses are leaving Nigeria on weekly basis. And as I speak, looking at 2017 to date, over 57,000 have left, and they are still living. The question is, why are they living? Principle of brain drain says pull and push factors, which you are familiar. Now, why is it that people are living? It is tailored towards very poor conditions of service. Lack of recognition, lack of motivation, non-availability of functional equipment. Why should it be so? If Nigeria is naturally endowed and we're able to manage the natural resources, should Nigeria not have all the things that will drive anybody outside Nigeria? Now, bringing it down to where we are here. I don't know why it is an argument to come and argue whether salary should be reviewed or not. It is overdue for review. And if we are talking here, I don't believe that it's not the politics of gathering people to distract the attention from doing other things that probably may impede the progress of democracy and the issue of election. I believe that if why we are here, we are serious about it, this discussion should end. And between now and the end of the month, a circular should come out that this is the level of salary to be implemented from December. Because if we are not careful, after discussing here, before the document will come out, we'll go to another government. And when you go, you start afresh. So why I'm saying this is that we were told, let us be factual. The chairman, Salaries Income and Wages Commission, is doing so well. He's a man of humility. And he has an open door policy and is very objective in whatever thing he is doing. So that we are gathering here, we should be able to achieve the purpose for which we are here. But not the one that we call rollover. Okay, as it can concern the nurses, the conditions of nurses, conditions of service need to be improved so that the consistently depleting workforce will not, which is already placed the health sector in danger. That as if it allowed to continue, the health sector will collapse. The nurses need recognition. The nurses need to be compensated, motivated, and paid substantially. Because over there, a salary of maybe 1 week, somebody is earning it here in 2-3 months.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much.
So much.
And I find that maybe we can, because we don't have up to 15 minutes to close the session. Maybe we let them take the questions and then people can answer how it's. Okay, madam, very quickly. So, madam, and then decide how we finish them. Quickly. Can we be very?
Mine is a reaction to the lady from the Office of the Head of Service about Nigeria's inability to pay salary. And I'm flabbergasted. And I'm not an economist, but then I ask, what makes a country rich? Human and natural resources, isn't it? Haven't we got an abundance of that? We have oil, we have gold, we have bitumen, we have coal, we have everything. Under our very nose, our oil wells are given out to individuals that are up there, and we stay far away because of them. No, richest man in Africa, richest man in Nigeria. Everybody's commonwealth is left in the hands of a few. And they're telling us here we are unable to pay, we do not have money. Please, it will be doing a lot of disservice to God our Creator, saying that Nigeria is not blessed. We are abundantly blessed. Thank you.
This is the first one. Okay.
Is there somebody else?
That should be the last. Okay, madam, last.
Yeah, thank you.
Please quickly go to the point.
Representing NUT. Yeah. Let me still, like a rider to what others have said, like my senior colleague from ASUS, I would also want to make an intervention in the area of ability to pay and productivity. And first, I would want to plead that we need to be sincere to ourselves. Because our problem is the fact that we know the truth and we will always want to live in denial. That's the problem we have in Nigeria. And one problem I have here is that when we are talking about compensation management in this country, a body like the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission is not here. This body that talks about allocation to federal, states, local government, and the one that's allocating job pay salaries to some set of persons are not here. I don't understand where we are going. Ability to pay. Let me take us home to my background, where primary school teachers are being paid by local governments. That is what they say, even though the Constitution talks otherwise, that the states have responsibility But the area of salary, they said, is local government's responsibility. We are all aware of cases where they talked about no allocation when salaries of private schools are taken from the local government. What we see today in the country, issues of education is not Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano. Let's go to the grassroots and see what is happening. Local governments cannot pay salaries and cannot employ. There are schools with only 2 teachers. There are schools with just the headmaster and 1 or 2 teachers. That is what is happening. Our children are suffering at the grassroots, and the foundation of it all is education. We are here talking about productivity and so on. Do you produce well, in fact, optimally, without the needed tools to do your work? Go to our schools. The tables and chairs are dead traps. Roofs are leaking. Children sitting on the floor. And we are, coming from our, air-conditioned offices. And please, let us be realistic.
Okay.
We are talking about, stay calm, please. Give me a little time. This is a country where state governments are talking about, for the sake of politics, talking about employing, whether temporary or it is permanent, I don't know. But special advisors for purposes of politics, hundreds of thousands, while teachers in those states have been owed promotions for the past 15 years. I'm giving you facts on the ground. I would like, even if case of I can even call the state. A graduate teacher employed 15 years ago is still on grade level 8. Their own counterparts in some other sectors must have moved up to 12, 13, but it's there. And that is the state that is employing, in fact, 8 for purposes of politics. Why are we not sincere to ourselves? And we are here saying, ability to pay, ability to pay. We have the ability to pay, but we do not want to do the right thing. That is the truth about it. Please, also permit me to say that the issue of the allocation to this federal government, I think the last count, if I'm not mistaken, 52.68% was for the federal government, states 26.72%, local government 20.60%. When are we going to review this allocation? That we have one giant of the federal government that every person is wanting to come and sit. Our problems in this country is because of this federal government that we are operating, or unitary system we are operating in the name of federal system. Why not share, review this allocation so that states will have enough, local governments will have enough to take care of the teachers and other workers, health workers within their own area of jurisdiction. I want to still believe that we have the ability to pay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think maybe we should just end it there because we need to close this round very quickly. And I found a couple of issues, and maybe we should just note them, and then the panelists would respond if they concern them. They don't all have to speak. There was the nurse, so let's just reiterate the issues so they can.
Yeah, I'm sure that the man, the issues are resolved, but like Madam got the honestness with that, so she needs to respond.
Please, ma, can we just clarify so that we know what the issues are, so
okay.
they can all
now,
speak?
Okay. For me.
So quickly.
Okay. We want to do that.
Yes, can I do that? So there are 7 issues now. There's an issue about labor, what labor is doing about productivity, ability to pay, and perception of whether Nigeria is rich or not rich, and how it affects our ability to pay. There's also an issue about merit, the emphasis on merit and the system. Are we applying merit systems? There's also an issue about labor retention. What are we doing in either both the private and the public sector by way of incentive to be able to retain labor? And I think someone talked about the perception around leadership.
And distortion.
And distortions in the system. And then lastly, somebody said, the nurse said he had a take-home question. And I think it doesn't scale because there are plenty of professors and academics here. All right.
Right, thank you very much. I think I need to make some clarification on the issue of ability to pay. You know, I share your opinion that Nigeria is a very rich country. We have the human and natural resources. But the question is, are they well managed to translate to economic prosperity for us as a country? I say Nigeria is poor, but individuals in Nigeria, few individuals are richer than the country because they have plundered the treasury. So when I say, he was talking, the representative of man, and he talked about the deficit we have in the power sector. Given all the natural resources that we have in the country, in terms of gas, in terms of water, if these things are well managed, Nigeria should not have any business of talking about deficit in power. So somebody, I think, hit the nail on the head when he said there's an issue of leadership. See, if you have all the resources and it's not well managed, it doesn't translate to economic prosperity. And that's where I'm going. So it's not that we are not endowed, but government as an entity, whether at federal level, whether at state level or local government that he just attested to, they're not able to pay because there is corruption. People are losing the treasury. And so if they look at the pockets, when we come to the negotiation table, the Minister of Finance is going to, she has in her coffers, in determining whether government can pay. But when it's been looted, she will only restrict herself to what is available. So you need to get me right when I say the issue of the ability to pay is critical, and we must look at it. Let's talk about the private sector. Some people say they are doing better than the public sector, but they could do far better if they have the basic infrastructure. And who has the responsibility to provide that? It's government. But if we don't have the right people in place, how do we manage our resources to translate into economic prosperity? These are the issues. I think we want to be frank. I try to be frank as much as possible, and that's why I'm addressing it the way I'm addressing it. The fact that Nigeria is rich as a country in terms of natural resources does not mean that it has the financial power as of today. Individuals do. And it's the individual that are putting us in the position where we are today. So government must look at what can be done to this individual. So the issue of saying ICPC arresting, honestly, I sit back at times and I say maybe until they start killing some people like Ronnie Smith some years ago, maybe this will never stop, because it's the issue of corruption that is destroying Nigeria. So that's why I want to raise the issue of ability to pay. Now let's talk about rewards in the public sector. Now those of us in the core public sector, in the ministries, if you know, I'm a director, for example, my take-home pay consolidated is 350,000 naira. Now I have my son's colleague working in CBN. He got the job maybe about 3 years ago, and he visited me in my office maybe about a year and a half ago. His starting point was 1.5 million. CBN. Now, government is aware of the wide disparity, even in the public sector, and there's no justification for it. And that's why government has set up the high-level committee for harmonization of compensation in the public sector. So there are issues, and it's good we're talking, but we must go beyond the point of talking. And I'm glad we are having the general election that is coming up. We need to interrogate the promises these people are giving, because if we don't have the right people in government, we will continue like this, God forbid. So it's important that we interrogate the issues deeply and not on a surface basis, and understand what we are really dealing with and take necessary steps at addressing them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I clarify that ability to pay is different from willingness to pay.
Yes. So on that, and since we have identified here that corruption is the bane to all of this issue, we should all resolve that capital punishment should be given to anyone who have been found to be corrupt. Like what happens in the Asian country,
by the time we invite that staff, you said we should bring solutions. We are suggesting now, put it down, that for it to be to serve as a deterrent to the public office holders, that they cannot just eat their cake and have it. If you are caught napping, you give you corporal punishment and you are off, and you will not have another cartel that will come in behind you. That's one. Then the issue of productivity. I want to tell you that an average Nigerian worker is very productive. But you will find out that the equipment, the tools that he needs to enhance his efficiency are not there. We talk about power. Here we have seen how many times the fluctuation of lights. Okay, when you have set up your business and you are there, you want to work, you don't have the basic the tools to work. For example, I work in the hospital, the health sector. It was in 2004 that we had the government supplied equipment to enhance our work. All of them have become very obsolete now. And you see, that's why you compare, when you compare an average Nigerian medical person or a health professional outside there, you see them flying high because they are well equipped and they are well trained. But we don't have the equipment here, and you are shouting, labor leaders are not. They will give in their best, even under that stringent condition, working without light. When you are conducting operation, you carry your there be no lights. You start to use your phone lights to do operation, improvising, and you are telling me that you should not pay me. As a labor leader, I know how, where and how it is. I will shout and tell the government, do the needful. You are the ones putting us under stress. So give us our wages, because a worker is worthy of his wages. That's one. Then number two, the issue of scheme of service. Scheme of service should not be an omnibus. Professionally, each profession should come up with their scheme of service and submit it to the head of service for scrutiny. Until we do that, if you are just trying to generate one single scheme of service for everybody, you are going to get it wrong. The years or duration of training has to be considered. The curriculum of teaching has to be put. Difficulties in your training must be factored. You don't just produce one scheme of service for everybody and say, you're funny. If you do that, it's going to have an implementation somersault. So, if the head of service is ready and the government is ready, what we propose is that the union leaders should go back to their trenches. They know all the various professionals under them. They will ask them to generate some of these scheme of service according to the times of reference, considering the duration of training, the difficulties and all that. Then we shall domicile it in your custody and we defend it. If it's approved, so be it. But by giving us one single wherever is wrong. Then lastly, the issue of single spined salary could be very helpful if we get the scheme of service right. Each person will just enter the system at his own or her own level of entry. For example, if you train for 6 years, you cannot enter the service the same time with somebody who trained for 4 years. Your entry point will be higher. Then the analysis may now differ. But the basic entry points, if you are trained for 5 years, all those who are trained for 5 years enter the system at the entry point. Those who are trained for 4 years, all of them enter. But your analysis will be peculiar to your functions and your duty, your line of duty, and it makes it easier. And all these one day strike, one day duty contest and rivalry will be kept on abeyance. It will help the system. So that's the area I'm suggesting that as a labor leader, we shall look at it. Due diligence will be taken into cognizance why that is done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me just intervene that the scheme of service is actually being reviewed with stakeholders' engagement. So I think, not as I said, to the extent that it has not become public, I think they can still take inputs. So if you have issues you want to be addressed, just send your paper to the head of service, and they probably will have an engagement with your group to see what we need to iron out and make sure that they're put right. Now, I have a question here which I'd like to address. Even before then, somebody talked about the unions promoting the issue of productivity. Let me tell you that trade unions essentially exist to promote the conditions of service of their workers. The issue of productivity is a management affair, and thank God we have collective bargaining negotiation. I talked about performance management system. So employers must come from their own angle and negotiate that I will pay you based on your performance. This is my KPI. If you meet those KPI, you will be paid. So the responsibility to drive productivity actually is rests squarely with management or employers of labor. I just need to put that right. Now, I have a question here that says, what is the position of the tenure system of directors according to Orosoya's report of tenure system? We all know Orosoya report stipulates that after 8 years, you should vacate. And I think that's the way to go because the unemployment rate is so high. For those of us that have served for 30, 35 years, we should leave the stage and allow the teeming unemployed youths to come on board. So I think that's the purpose of the NSIWC report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to clarify, to let the labor know that reviewing the schemes of service, yes, it's done by the National Council on Establishment, all the states, which involve all the professions. It's different from job evaluation, where every profession, we bring experts to come and talk about, they can't do it without profession, so don't think that they can do it. That's why it is called schemes of service, not just scheme of service. It involves everybody, just to allay your fears. And I'm happy that somebody, because that thing needs to be done, like yesterday. I think the chairman wants.
Okay, thank you very much. Mine is just to add to the discussion, particularly the issue of compensation and productivity. To me, there's a sort of a symbiotic relationship. The more you compensate somebody, the more productive that person can be. As we were discussing, it just occurred to me that government said they are removing a subsidy by next year, and recently somebody reported that a liter of oil will not sell less than 510 naira. Now imagine somebody who receives, say, 50,000 naira a month as a salary, and he needs to, fuel a 50-liter car. Naturally, how much will that cost him? Per week to go to office. He will need 25,000 naira to fill his vehicle. And that is, and his salary is 50,000 naira. Naturally, he will either not, maybe find another way of subsidizing, maybe himself through corruption, as some people highlighted, or he will not, he will skip some days, to go to work. So that will affect the productivity of that fellow in the service. So I feel, it is important people are paid living wage as recommended by some, and that is what the head of service was saying. She actually qualified her statement when she said we should consider when we are considering living wage, we must also consider ability to pay, and for us to have the ability to pay, the economy must be fixed. That is what she. That is how she. That is how she captured it. And one of the ways is this removal of subsidy. Although I know many unions will are not comfortable with that actually, proper management of public funds. Some people that intervened suggested that we need to do something about the way pensions are paid to ex-governors, the way public funds are wasted. Something need to be done in that respect. I think yesterday the chairman of National Salaries and Common Wages Commission, made one important contribution yesterday to do with this issue of wastages. We may not call it wastage because most of the agencies we talk about are actually backed by laws. They are paying their workers handsomely to the detriment of the whole society. At the end of the day, sometimes they are brought to agencies like ours that they are violating National Income Service and Wages Act. They are violating this and that. But at the end of the day, nothing can be done about it because their boards are empowered by their laws to fix their salaries and allowances. So I think it is important, amendment is made to some laws, maybe the National Income Service and Wages Act can be amended, or the easiest way, what I noticed they are doing these days is to amend the Finance Act. They do Finance Act on a regular basis. So a Finance Act can be amended to provide that revenue generating agencies, in order to reduce the wastages, should subject their conditions of service to the head of service and the National Income Service and Wages Commission.
Thank you very much, sir. I thought that CUC will talk about this issue of casualized workers, and this guy that spoke to us in the morning, the Uber guy, I see that, I saw him. It is, there is organization and mobilization of who is organizing casual. People is crying for casualization. They are all, and I thought that somebody should respond to.
Thank you very much. While he was ending his plea, he made a passionate request, which is the way to go. Their request or their application is still domiciled at the trade union, the Register of Trade Union department or units in the Ministry of Labour. And for them to be legalized and for them to really come out and be vocal and to be supported by the law, that application should be approved and they should be unionized. Without that, they will be under the mercies of whoever. And if they are given that power, they'll be able to negotiate, they'll be able to resist those who have been exploiting them. Even the 25% that have been taken away from them can be negotiated. But now, since they do not have the voice, the Trade Union Congress will be ready to partner with them and make sure that we'll see to the end of that perennial stay of your application there, and it should see the light of the day. We will look at your requests and see whether you meet the criteria and see why the trade union registrar has not yielded to your requests.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sure you can follow him after this meeting and collect his coordinates. Exactly. We need to solve that. Thank you very much. I think we are done.
I think we are done with this one. And,
okay. You want to say one last one?
But it really has to be faster.
Thank you very much. Please, just give me the indulgence to make these few points. One clarification is that productivity is the business of everybody. It involves participation by government, labor, and employers, and that is why what is called tripartite arrangement of logistic movement. That's number one. Number two, our problem in Nigeria is that Nigeria is a consuming nation. We are not a producing nation. Most of what we are consuming are not produced by us. And we have a problem of what is called a resource cost theory. Our oil, what do? We extract oil and we go and sell it. We don't add value to it. And that's why our refineries are not working. Our recruitment system is faulty. There's a lot of nepotism. And sometimes people even buy jobs. They pay for jobs. When somebody pays for a job, how do you expect that person to be brought on duty? And that's my case here. Thank you.
Very much. I think that I will invite the convener to close the session.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the organizers of this forum, thank you all for participation in this very important policy dialogue, and I hope the interaction we have will help a lot in improving the compensation system in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just invited the panelists, the convener, the chairperson, and the moderators to stand while they take a photograph. Thank you very much. A round of applause for all of them. Thank you very, very, very much. Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, Office of the Head of Service, Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, NASIMA, and of course National Productivity Center. Also thank Secretary to the Commission, ICPC. Okay. Now we are going for tea now. Tea. And just like after tea, which will be for 30 minutes, after tea we'll come back and then we consolidate again all the sessions. So we're trying to see whether we can finish before 3 o'clock. So it's depends on you and myself. So we'll go for tea now and we get back here by quarter past 1. Now for tea, just for organization's sake, resource persons and panelists, okay, should move through this door, okay? And you go to the second table. Resource persons and all the panelists